This week, we look at the 1985 instant phenomenon Back to the Future, and along the way we ask, would you want to hang out with your parents as teenagers? Is this a movie with a good case for studios not to meddle? And how different would this movie have been with Eric Stoltz? This is Force-Fed Sci-Fi. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another thrilling edition of the Force-Fed Sci-Fi podcast. My name is Chris Rupp. I am joined with my co-host,
Sean Culp.
Thank you, folks, so much for joining us on what is sure to be a very exciting episode of Force-Fed Sci-Fi. I, for one, was very excited to watch Back to the Future. Sean, I'm sure your feelings were shared.
Totally. I love this film.
We were jazzed when we picked this last week.
I'm like, yes, I haven't seen this film in like a decade anyway. So it was
for
good
you,
to revisit.
Last time I watched this was probably 3 months ago.
Oh my God.
This is one of those movies for me I have to watch every so often.
Yeah.
Because it is so much fun to watch.
It is. I totally forgot how much fun. You laugh like the entire time.
Yes.
It's amazing.
Before we get into that, though, why don't we break down the plot of the movie?
Let's break it down.
So we meet our main character name of Marty McFly, who is played by Michael J. Fox. Lives in a small town in what looks to be Central or Southern California. We're not really sure. That's not essential to the plot.
No.
But we see things aren't that great for him in his life in 1985 present. I mean, his talents are kind of underwritten. People call his music too loud. The only really good thing he has going for him is his girlfriend, Jennifer Parker.
Yeah.
And we meet Marty's parents, George and Lorraine, and life hasn't turned out the way that they thought it would for them. They both don't seem very happy or interested in what's going on. George is picked on by his boss, Biff Tannen. And then we meet Marty's friend, Doc Brown, who is played by Christopher Lloyd. And Doc has finally realized his life's ambition of building a time machine, and he drags Marty out at the Twin Pines Mall at 1:15 in the morning, and we see a DeLorean roll out of the back of a moving van, and we see some serious stuff when that thing gets up to 88 miles per hour. It goes back in time, and we as the audience seeing this thinking, oh my God, they've just killed the dog.
Yeah.
And it comes back, and then because Doc did some nefarious things to get the time machine financed and powered, Libyan terrorists show up at a time when it was okay to put Libyan terrorists in a movie.
Yeah. I was totally thinking about that while watching this.
Personally, I still think it's okay to use Libyan terrorists anyway.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, if your
guess,
terrorists in a movie now are Libyan, then I think that's okay.
Yeah. So
Muammar Gaddafi kind of did his thing over there.
He did.
But anyway, now in an effort to escape from these terrorists, Marty gets into the time machine, and forgetting that once it gets up to 88 miles per hour, it goes back in time, he finds himself transported 30 years into the past in 1955.
How could he forget?
I don't know.
After such a life-altering event.
I don't know. I mean, it's insane to think that he just forgot how it worked.
But he did.
But now Marty has found himself in 1955, so who knows what kind of damage he's done to the timeline already just by being there. Now he has to hook up with the younger version of Doc Brown and figure out a way to get back to 1985, because in short, he does not belong there.
No, he does not.
And along the way, he meets the younger versions of his parents and gets to know them. And we find out soon, how he changes his parents' life for the better.
That's right.
So I think that's a pretty good breakdown. If you haven't seen Back to the Future, the movie's been out for 34 years, people. You've had time to see it.
Spoilers, man.
Spoilers abound.
It's past the, 5 years?
Yeah, five years is my statute of limits on the spoilers there.
All right. So before we jump into the nitty gritty, you want to do the pre-production?
Yeah. Who made this movie?
Robert Zemeckis.
The now legendary Robert Zemeckis.
Yeah, this was before. Yeah, that's right. Because when he made this film, he just had 2 box office bombs.
Right before this. He did Used Cars, and I think A Hard Day's Night was the other one. Those 2 were not very good, but then he took a break, and he did Romancing the Stone with Michael Douglas and Kathleen Turner before she had her quote-unquote thyroid issue. But anyway, that's
Savage.
beside the point. And Romancing the Stone was a huge hit.
It did. It grossed like 84 million, 85 million. And you look at the cover, and it's like Michael Douglas swinging.
Yeah, it's Michael Douglas in this like lackadaisical Indiana Jones role where he does not care, and Kathleen Turner is just annoying him to no end.
Just cashing the check, man.
Pretty much, but it turned out to be a great movie.
It did, and because they got that film, it was box office success. They could, I guess, convince Spielberg to take him on.
Ooh, the legendary Steven Spielberg, who is now making his very first appearance on the Force Fed Sci-Fi podcast.
Yes,
He will come up in future episodes, I'm sure, but I mean, Zemeckis also wrote the movie with Bob Gale, so Zemeckis had a pretty hands-on approach to the movie from when it was born, because Bob Gale, the other screenwriter, had the idea when he was visiting his parents. He found his dad's old high school yearbook, and he found out his dad was the class president.
Yeah, he didn't know.
I mean, the movie's credits are just pretty much a who's who of Hollywood legends. I mean, like we mentioned, Steven Spielberg was the producer. This was also produced with Kathleen Kennedy and Frank Marshall.
That's right.
We have spoken previously about our love of Kathleen Kennedy and how she is one, if not the smartest person in Hollywood.
Oh, just look at her credentials, man. She's getting nominated for so many Oscars. All of her films are insane.
I mean, she was just awarded an honorary Oscar
She
as
was.
well, too. I mean,
She was.
which is a shame she can't get an actual one.
Yeah.
I mean, it was director of photography was Dean Cundey, who, if you're familiar with John Carpenter films, you know he did a lot of his films. And now we get into the cast of the film.
Yes.
As Marty McFly, like we mentioned, is Michael J. Fox. Christopher Lloyd as Dr. Emmett Brown. Leah Thompson and Crispin Glover as Lorraine and George McFly, respectfully, as Marty's parents. Thomas F. Wilson as Biff Tannen, who I didn't see much in any other movies after this, because I think people were it was very hard for them to separate the role of Biff. I mean, it's the best actors who really play those villain roles so well.
It is. It's so true.
And we've got, I had to put this down, we have James Tolkien as Mr. Strickland, who I really can't imagine anybody else in that role.
Yes. Oh, you're so great.
And if you know your obscure 80s music, you'll notice Huey Lewis in an uncredited cameo. Claudia Wells is Jennifer Parker, who's really in like 3 scenes. And I don't know if you saw this, but Billy Zane in one of his first roles is Biff's henchman.
No way. That was Billy Zane?
Yeah, the tall one.
Oh, my God.
Because the other guys were like really short.
Okay.
Also, too, made on a budget of $19 million. So today that's about $46 million. So not a pretty hefty budget for the time.
It's just insane for the time.
And we mentioned, too, I mean, Steven Spielberg was involved in this. This movie went through an insane amount of drafts in the screenplay. I mean, there were, at one point, the
rewrites, man.
Rewrites, 44 drafts. It kept getting rejected and rejected and rejected.
And no one wanted to pick them up.
Nobody did.
No one. They tried going to Disney, and then Disney said, no go, because we're a family franchise. We don't want to see a mom falling in love with their
You
boy.
have a mother making out with her son.
I know.
They were freaked out.
They were.
Yet Disney has no problem killing a cartoon deer.
What? What are you talking about?
Bambi.
Oh, yeah.
Disney has no problem killing cartoon deer moms and breaking the hearts of everybody. Yet,
That's right.
Yet mom on son incest is just no go for them.
All right, wait, but time out. So I'm just thinking about this. It just came to me. Star Wars. They just got the whole entire franchise. Luke kisses Leia.
Yeah, but that was pre-Disney.
All right, but they're still taking it on
That's
them.
PD. That's pre-Disney.
That's pre-Disney PD.
I mean, Lucasfilm can be summed up with, WG with George, and then PD. That's post-Disney.
Post-Disney and with George. All right, fair enough.
I mean, those are the 2 eras for Lucasfilm, but we're digressing a little bit. The first draft of the screenplay actually had the time machine being a refrigerator and needed the power of an atomic explosion.
Dude, just think of that movie.
That movie would have been insane. And actually, because of the atomic power, that actually had to cause some rewrites in the climax, which we'll get to. The DeLorean was only chosen to serve the gag when the family mistakes it for a flying saucer.
Yeah.
That was the only reason that car was chosen. Not the wing doors or anything, which if you pay attention to the movie closely, you see actors bump their heads on those wing doors the entire movie.
God.
I love those little touches in movies where it's like, well, we can't reshoot this, so it has to stay in there.
Yeah.
Like going back to Star Wars for a second, you see it all the time Like a stormtrooper will bang his head into one of those rotating doors that go up, and you see a poor stormtrooper just go and hit his head.
God, I love that. But low budget, can't shoot, because they shot this film with the replacement. So if you don't know, Marty McFly was actually cast a different actor.
Yeah, Eric Stoltz was originally cast to play Marty.
Yeah, they saw him in Mask.
Mask, which if you don't know Mask, it's about a young man named Rocky who suffers from facial disfigurations. I haven't seen the movie.
I haven't either.
But I mean, if you're a movie buff, you know the movie Mask.
Apparently, he got a Golden Globe nod, and they really liked it. They thought he was great for it. But apparently, when they did about 4 weeks filming of Back to the Future with this guy, and they just said he was too dramatic.
It's so weird to see clips of the movie and production stills with Eric Stoltz as Marty McFly.
Yeah.
I mean, these clips are out there. They're out there on YouTube. They're all over the internets these days. It's so weird to see Eric Stoltz as Marty McFly, excuse me. And there actually is a frame in the movie where Eric Stoltz is in the movie.
No way.
It's a tiny frame.
Are you serious?
Yes. Well, I'll point it out when we get there, though.
I'm down. Oh, that's so cool.
And it was like you said. I mean, he just played the role so dramatically, and it's not meant to be a dramatic role.
Well, they said, I think Spielberg said that the reason why it didn't work is because Michael J. Fox was the character of Marty McFly. Like, they thought of him when they wrote it. Like, he was the guy.
He was the original choice, but at the time he was doing a show called Family Ties, and the producers of that show wouldn't let him out of his contract to do it. Mm-hmm. But when they fired Eric Stoltz, they had to go back to the producers of Family Ties and literally be on their hands and knees and say, like, oh my gosh, you have to give us Michael. And I mean, it worked out for them.
It sucked for Michael J. Fox because he worked insane hours. He said he only slept like 4 or 5 hours, and he just always.
If you watch the special features, the documentaries for those, they set up a station wagon for him to sleep in on the way to and from productions. It's crazy.
It's insane.
The lengths they went to accommodate Michael J. Fox.
Because he was doing Family Ties and this at the same time.
It was
just insane. He, what did they say? With Michael J. Fox, with the character as him embodying it, Eric Stoltz, they said the difference was he was trying to act to be comedic, whereas Michael J. Fox, it was just his personality, man.
It worked.
It did. Christopher Lloyd, he initially, he's the role of Doc Brown. When he took on the film, he actually, he didn't want to take it.
No.
At first, but his wife kind of like pressured him, I guess you could say, to pick it up.
Well, I mean, it worked out for him too. I mean, and if you watch the movie, he does not play it comedically at all. It feels very much like an extension of Christopher Lloyd's, like that manic character that he played on Taxi.
Yes.
Just not coked out, but just like, just crazy. Marty, you got to come back with me.
He's just so eccentric all the time. It's great.
It's insane.
I love him.
We talked a little bit about pre-production and the script writing, and then, once Zemeckis' star was able to get a little brighter and they took on this movie, Amblin Entertainment, that's Steven Spielberg's production company, and then Universal offered to distribute it. And this is where we get the studio executive known as Sid Sheinberg.
Oh, my God.
And he wanted to meddle with this more than any other executive should meddle with anything. I mean, he did have some good suggestions. He wanted to change Marty's mother's name from Meg to Lorraine. He wanted to change Doc Brown's name from Professor to Doc.
Yeah.
Replacing Doc's pet chimpanzee with a dog.
Nice.
All good things, all good things. However, some were not so good.
He wanted to change the name from Back to the Future to Spaceman from Pluto.
Oh my God! Already, that's a terrible title.
Just think of that, like Spaceman from Pluto. It's so wordy. It's not sexy. It's not sleek.
Spielberg actually sent him a memo, pretty much embarrassing him. Like, oh my gosh, that's such a funny joke that you sent to us. Yeah. Oh man, I mean, supposedly they didn't get a response back from Sheinberg about it, so they kept the title to Back to the Future, which thankfully they did.
He was just obsessed with that name.
By the way, if you were paying attention to the time machine being a refrigerator and the nuclear explosion, they actually used that in Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull.
He did. He finally used it,
and now it was finally used in a movie. But now that trope is now known as nuking the fridge in Hollywood.
It is.
God. Which, unfortunately, we have to credit that to Mr. Spielberg.
We do.
But it also, too, I mean, in the original climax, they wanted to use a nuclear test explosion in Nevada.
Yeah.
But the studio deemed that as too expensive to shoot.
Yeah, well, it would just change everything. I mean, he would have to show up there
Mm-hmm.
and then to go back. I mean,
They had to change everything, but I mean, it works out better. The climax of the movie is much better with the budget constraints.
way much more
It
interesting.
keeps it local to what is essentially. I mean, Hill Valley itself is a character in the movie. I mean, we see it change from 1985 to 1955, so it is very important to keep it grounded in that location.
Yeah. Plus, it saved them money, so they didn't have location costs.
But like we met, like Eric Stoltz, 4 weeks into shooting, he had to be recast. You know, this actually caused Jennifer Parker to be recast. Well,
That's right. Yeah, so many characters in this film were cast because of Stoltz that, like, the changes, she got changed because she was taller than Michael J. Fox.
yeah, they had to recast Jennifer Parker to be somebody who's, you know, not going to be 2 feet taller than Michael J. Fox.
Fair enough. Did you know that Biff, the character, they actually had a guy named Cohen, J.J. Cohen, that initially auditioned, and they were going to give him the role of Tannen, but because he wasn't as imposing, he wasn't taller than Stoltz, they the gang. But they said, like, if Stoltz was never first cast, then they would have had a totally different Biff.
I mean,
But it works.
it works. You need to have him as Biff. You need to have somebody who is tall.
Oh, I love the gag. Like, whenever he stands up and you just see Marty peeking over his shoulder.
Just like, what is going on? Like, you're taller than I thought. I'm suffering from a bit of overconfidence here.
Yeah.
Like, you could lay me out here.
The gag works.
Now that we've kind of covered a bit of the pre-production stuff, what do you say we actually get into the movie?
I'm down. Let's do it.
I mean, right away we see Marty enter Doc's workshop, and all these clocks are everywhere. I mean, it's almost melodic to hear all the ticking clocks, just a tick-tock, tick-tock, tick-tock. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm. It opens up as a great. Felt like they have like the sequences of everything.
I mean, and clearly something is going on because Doc isn't there. There's piles of old dog food. I mean, and the toast is just getting burnt and burnt and burnt. Which I got to admit, I would love to have those breakfast implements in my house.
Yes. Oh, it'd make life so much
automatic toaster, coffee that just, goes, and, something that, an apparatus that feeds my dog whenever I need it to. I would love that. I mean, I get that those apparatuses are there now. I'm just cheap. I mean, but where has Doc been?
I don't know.
And Marty just shows up like, hey, what's going on?
Hey.
You mind if I play with your big old amplifier?
Yeah. This thing is huge. And then he blows out the amplifier. And we find out that there's a problem with it. So so Doc warns him.
Warns him, which, again, very useful after he's just been blown 25 feet across the room. But, I mean, wait, Doc, are you telling me it's 8:25?
Yeah.
Did you notice in that scene Marty's actually wearing a watch?
I know. I saw that and I'm like, wait, you could always look down.
How do you not know what time it is?
Yeah, right.
You are in a building that's literally surrounded with clocks. I mean, I get that they're slow. I mean, that's part of the gag of the scene. But you are wearing a digital watch.
Mm-hmm.
And you are late for school?
And why are you cutting it that close anyways?
Right? I mean, what made him think, hey, I got time to go mess around in Doc's workshop. I'm sure there aren't dangerous things in there for me to play around with on a Thursday morning going to school. I'm assuming this is taking place on a Thursday.
On a Thursday?
Which is still, I mean, regardless if it's not, it's still a random day during the week.
It is.
So you got time to mess around in Doc's workshop, but you don't have 10 seconds to check your watch and see if you're actually going to be late for school.
Hey, man, he's a teenager. They don't think about those things. He just wanted to play guitar, jam out.
Apparently.
Yeah.
I mean, we see him now at school. I mean, he's not doing much schooling.
No.
Because, I mean, we meet the associate, I guess it's the associate principal, Strickland.
Yeah.
Who's, he's just a D-wad in this movie.
Oh, he calls everyone slackers.
Everyone's a slacker. You're a slacker. Your father was a slacker. You got an attitude problem, McFly.
You're a slacker. I love that, man.
And then, we're introduced to Marty as a musician, and he's a really great guitar player.
He is. He jams out because the school, what is it? The band?
It's talent show, Battle of the Bands or something.
And so he wanted to get on and win it, and they were just too loud. They played like 3 seconds.
I'm afraid you're just too darn loud. Oh, man.
He just can't catch a break, man.
No,
he just can never catch a break.
Even if he didn't make it on as a a band leader. He could have done something as like a session musician. And so apparently this thought never occurred to him, because there's always a demand for a guitar player who can play like that in any band. I mean, you hang around for a little while, kid, there's going to be an opening in Metallica.
Well, yeah, even a touring, even bands that need
Dave
extra
Mustaine
musicians
is going to drink
touring.
himself out of Metallica. You could have gotten in with them. You didn't know that?
Oh my God.
You didn't know Dave Mustaine was originally in Metallica?
No.
What got him fired was he poured beer down Cliff Burton's the neck of his guitar and ruined everything, and he got fired from the band.
Are you what?
I am dead serious.
Oh my God.
I can't believe you didn't know that.
No, well, I'm not a giant Metallica fan.
Well, I mean, they all went on to do bigger and better things, but I mean,
They did.
The Dave Mustaine's initial claim to fame was, "Hey, I had Kirk Hammett's job before I got fired."
That's hilarious.
Like, I'm sorry, Dave, but Kirk is a much better guitarist than you.
And he doesn't pour beer down guitars.
Well, I don't think he drinks anymore. We're digressing a little bit.
We are.
So, post audition in Back to the Future, we see, Jennifer Parker try to be the good girlfriend, like, cheer up, Marty, it's okay. But Marty's still very much a sex-crazed teenager.
He is.
It's like, hey, we're going to go up to the lake, we're going to put some blankets in the bed of the truck, and we're going to hang out, and it's going to be a good time. And,
oh, yeah.
And then Jennifer Parker's dad rolls up like, come on, Jennifer, we need to go.
Adios.
And then Marty's just like, ooh.
Buzzkill, man.
Literally, you could insert the sad trombone.
That's his life up until this moment. And then he goes home.
And then he goes home. And this is where we meet the McFly family.
Gosh, just pitiful.
That scene's a bit rough to watch.
It's tough to watch. It's just uncomfortable.
Yeah, you see a grown man who's getting talked down by his boss.
And he's doing his work for him. I mean, like, guys like picking on him. He's knocking on his head. So Biff, the villain in this film, whenever people aren't hearing or listening to him right, he says hello, hello.
Yeah, grabs them and knocks
home.
on their head. Like, come on, that's not cool, dude.
I know. I like the use of butthead though.
Yeah, butthead's everywhere in this movie.
I think it does date the film just a little bit. Like,
well,
who says butthead?
The movie isn't really meant to exist beyond 1985.
That is true.
It's
a nice slice of.
It's
80s.
a microcosm of what it was in the 1980s. I mean, you have the clothing, you have the vernacular, you have
the music.
The music, yes. I mean, we'll get into that in a little bit. I mean, you notice. I mean, it's a Huey Lewis centered soundtrack until we're introduced to the time machine.
Yes. So you're at his house. You're seeing the McFlys. You're seeing the dynamic, which there really isn't. No one's like communicating.
Nobody's happy.
Each other.
I mean,
no one's happy.
Lorraine, when she's talking about meeting George for the first time, I mean, you can tell there's this sad twinge in her face.
Yeah.
Like, she's taken to drinking. She's gotten fat. Her
her
little brother's in jail.
Yeah. And she's like telling the story of how she met her husband, and like he's not even looking at her. He's just watching the TV.
He's not interested. He's just kind of oblivious as to what's going on. His older brother is working at a Burger King. His sister, I mean, isn't doing much with her life. So, I mean, the family is just kind of stuck, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, they just can't get by. It's like Marty. Marty just has that McFly curse to him.
Lorraine is drinking Stoli and walking around the house with a cigarette. I mean, it's the good old days when you could still smoke inside.
Yeah, she's just filling up half the cup full of straight booze.
Oh, my God. I mean, and I'm not trying to criticize her choice of alcohol, but Stoli, really? You can't afford a little something that's high class. I mean, was Kettle One around in 1985? You could have got yourself a bottle of that.
Some great.
You'd have got yourself some grade A spirits, honey.
Oh, my God. So then we go to the mall.
The mall. We're at the Twin Pines Mall at 1:15 in the morning, and we don't see Doc anywhere.
We don't.
But we see his van of Dr. Emmett Brown's 24-hour scientific services, which I have to ask, who needs scientific services at the drop of a hat?
I don't know.
It's like, hey, Doc, I got something going on. Like, I thought about calling an electrician, but I thought I would call you first.
I know.
Like, can you help out with my alternating currents here?
I'm curious. I want to see that like TV series where it's just Doc helping different people out.
Yeah, I want to see like I want to see a TV commercial with Doc actually advertising these 24-hour scientific services. That's what I want to see out of that.
I know. I'm so curious. Maybe an answering machine. Just something.
Something is just like, hello, Dr. Brown's 24-hour scientific services. What are your needs today?
So
we get the DeLorean.
we
reveal.
finally they reveal the time machine.
I love it, and it's where we get our first twinge of a dramatic theatrical score. I mean,
Yes,
where
that would
the
highlight
DeLorean is revealed,
Mhm.
and it's pouring smoke out of everywhere.
everywhere. It's just backing
Everywhere.
out.
And then we see Doc Brown get out, which he's literally been hotboxing like car steam the entire time.
You know, that was actually someone was critical about that. How did he get inside the car?
Yeah,
Like,
I don't get it.
I don't get it.
Then you notice it doesn't happen at any other point in the movie where there's just smoke is just enveloped him in the car. It doesn't happen at any other point during the movie when Marty does his whole time traveling romps. He doesn't get out and is like, oh man, it's hot in there. And then Doc, explains what's going on, and then we get the test of the DeLorean, and Doc is perfectly willing to potentially sacrifice his dog. I mean,
He is.
He doesn't know what's going to happen. He says like, you're going to see some serious stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, he doesn't even know that it's going to, actually time travel. For all intents and purposes, this is probably the first real test of the time machine.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I think he was winging it. It was just the
he was
researcher.
absolutely winging it. He's like, get in there, Einie.
Researcher's confidence, man. He's like, I can just get
I
another
guess
dog.
in the test screening, people were terrified, thinking that they killed the dog.
Seriously?
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's
people were
awesome.
like holding their breath, like, oh my god, did they kill the dog? And then the dog comes back, and they're all, oh, thank goodness,
He's alive.
the dog is alive. And then Marty has to film him the whole time, and Marty, he wants to stand a safe distance back, and then Doc shoots him that look, like, hey, what are you doing? Get over here. Like,
I
don't know
love that look. That look is so perfect.
Yeah, but it's just like, hey, Doc, do you know, like, you're about to send this car screaming towards us at 90 miles an hour? I mean, if it hits us, I mean, the car is going to win.
right.
I mean, I get that it's stainless steel, but I mean, when it comes to humans battling a car, the car wins every single time.
Hey, man, he wanted to set up the artistic view of the flames.
Well, that's your scientific services right there. That's just physics. The car, a 2,000-pound car is going to win a battle against a 200-pound human. There's your scientific services.
so it works.
But speaking of scientific services, I mean, if you think about it, there's really not much science involved in this movie.
No, there isn't. He doesn't really talk too much about
why 88 miles per hour? Why is that the magic time travel zone?
Why 1.21 gigawatts?
Yeah, why does it take a nuclear reaction to make it work? Why is the DeLorean cold after that first trip? What the hell is the flux capacitor?
And it never
What power is
cold.
that?
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, it's really only speculative physics regarding timelines, but that's a common theme throughout the entire series.
We should go to O'Reilly's and order a flux capacitor.
Yeah, I bet they would have it in stock.
You know, they actually do. O'Reilly's. If you go online and you type in like a certain code, the flux capacitor actually comes on.
I don't want that.
It's
I
serious.
don't want it.
You don't want it?
I don't want that in my car. I don't want that in any car. That's dangerous because people are going to ask questions like, hey, what's that doing there?
Well, why do you have that in your car?
Yeah, that's a gigantic waste of money for me. Let's get into time travel briefly.
Let's do it.
I mean, personally, I don't think time travel is possible. I don't know what your feelings about it are.
I don't think it's possible. No, I don't think so. I think like time, like relativity and stuff, like I know online I was reading some research about like how light speed and such, like if we're in a ship and you're going away from Earth and then you come back at a certain speed, you may be gone for 7 years, right? And so like let's say, we leave now, I leave at 27, I'd be 34 when I come back, but the world with the rotations and all that, it could be advanced 40 years.
Yeah.
That's possible. But to go back in time or forward in time, I just don't think it's possible.
Here's my thoughts on this. I mean, first, it's going to require a ton of energy and power to actually make time travel possible. More so than nuclear. We would have to harness something way more dangerous and way stronger than nuclear. And already there, I'm like, whoa, let's not go there. Because if it goes wrong, it's going to go wrong in a big time way. I mean, second, and there's no theory yet, there's no theory yet on how to even accomplish time travel. There's no way of knowing how would you even go about doing it. I mean, in this movie, we see if you break it down, it's a very simplistic way to time travel. You hook up a bunch of electrical components to a car, a nuclear reactor, and bada bing, bada boom, you can time travel. And then we see other examples in movies, like if you look at Superman, it's just Superman flies around the world and changes the Earth's rotation and then changes it back. I mean, that's, again, no real explanation as to how that works.
Yeah.
Because all you've done is just reverse Earth's rotation and you've messed up the day-night cycle. Congratulations, Superman. You've made things worse. And then we see, like, if you've read H.G. Wells' The Time Machine, I mean, I'm pretty sure his depiction of the time device was just a chair.
Mm-hmm.
No mention of like, oh, well, where do you input, where do you want to go, or how does it work? Like, where is the power source coming from? So there's very simplistic ways and there's very complex ways of portraying time travel. But either way, there's no clear definition on how to do it. Like,
No.
it's not like traveling to space. Like, okay, well, we need something we need a vehicle that's capable of space travel. And it's the same principle for time travel. I mean, what's your vehicle? What's your base level of actually traveling in time?
And it's like, plus it's beyond me. How would you be able to break people down from the atomic level
Yes.
and then figure out a way to transport you into another decade time? Like, I don't understand.
Mm-hmm. Well, and finally, too, I mean, if it is something that is possible, it will either be A, really expensive, or B, quickly made illegal.
Yes.
I mean, because there's always some events that people want to time travel back and see. Some people want to see the Gettysburg Address. Some people want to see signing the Declaration of Independence or
Changing
the falling
your
of the Berlin
life.
Wall. I mean, but yeah, I mean, it's real. It's time dimensional consequences of actually being able to travel back in time, because you are affecting, in a small way, you are affecting events.
Oh, totally.
And we'll see how like small events will shape the future in this movie for sure.
Absolutely.
But we see Doc, explain how it works and how he got the plutonium to get to power the time machine.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where we get our Libyan terrorists.
Yes. And the Libyan terrorists come because he built them a faulty bomb that didn't work
Out of pinball machine parts
Yeah.
or something.
in order to get the plutonium. And so they come after him. They start shooting at Doc. They kill him.
Yes.
They shoot him. They kill him. And then Marty gets into the time machine. Due
Goes
to
back to
gun jamming.
1955.
Yep. He doesn't. He just goes, races around a parking lot, and boom, he appears
Boom, he appears. I mean,
in a farm.
in a farm of all places.
He crashes into a nice little barn and wakes up the folks.
And you have to think about, too, I mean, science fiction in the 1950s. I mean, it is set, it's either all aliens or it's all giant bugs or giant somethings that are coming around and just wrecking small town USA. I mean, either giant ants or it's an amorphous blob that's swallowing everything.
But this was a DeLorean, Chris.
1955 was actually only 8 years after the quote-unquote Roswell incident, and War of the Worlds came out in 1953.
That's true. And everyone thought the War of the Worlds was true.
No, the
They
actual
like, people
movie, not the radio broadcast.
Oh, the radio broadcast people thought was absolutely true.
Yeah, people were killing themselves because Orson Welles was a jerk.
He was a douche.
Yeah, he was not a friendly person.
They thought he was just a great reader.
But I mean, Marty is still unsure. Like, hey, did I actually travel back in time? And it doesn't hit him because he drives by his old neighborhood
And
or
it's
his
empty.
current neighborhood, and it's empty. He's like, oh, okay, well, not really going on there.
Yeah.
And then he winds up in the Hill Valley Town Square, and Mr. Sandman is playing in the background.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that is eerily similar to a Twilight Zone episode. It's the very first Twilight Zone episode. Where is Everybody is the name of the episode.
Oh, that's cool.
Where it's a similar plot device of somebody walking around a town square going like, where am I? Where is everybody? What's going on?
What's going on? Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And then the score gets all tense when Marty looks up at the clock tower and sees, oh my God, it actually is working.
Yes.
I did travel back in time.
Yeah. Which that clock tower will be very important
Oh
later
yes.
on.
As my Hill Valley Preservation Society T-shirt shows, that clock tower will be very important for the climax of the movie.
So Marty realizes he's back in time and he decides to seek out Doc Brown.
Yes, in the diner where George is enjoying his bowl of soup.
Yes. George McFly, who is his father. He
Yes.
sees the younger version. He's such a nerd in this film.
Oh God, yes, he's a nerd.
Apparently, the actor, he improvised like 50% of it, like
I don't
all
know
like
why.
the
Crispin
shaking
Glover,
hands and everything.
I mean, it's one thing to improvise like facial tics or
Yeah,
involuntary tics of the hands or things like that, but you can't claim improvisation like you're Marlon Brando. You didn't invent it, dude. And and I guess Crispin Glover was a nightmare to work with on set.
that's what they said. He was. They had to like reel him in because he just wasn't grasping his character at all.
Well, again, I mean, it works that he's playing him straight-laced and he's playing him like he does. It works with that movie, but I mean, as a director and as a screenwriter,
Oh God,
I imagine it would get pretty short pretty quick.
probably. So
he finds his dad, and then he follows him, and then we see George in a tree.
Oh, yes. So the big plot for how their parents met was Lorraine said that her father hit him with a car. So Marty goes back, sees his dad in a tree, and he's peeping. He's a peeping Tom.
He's a peeping Tom.
He's a peeping Tom.
George is a future stalker.
He is a future
Because
stalker.
imagine if it didn't work out with Lorraine, he would just find some other girl to nest up in a tree and spy on.
I know. I saw that. I'm like, what is this? What? Instead, Marty saves his dad. He says, look out. And he pushes him out of the way, and he ends up getting hit by his grandfather.
Another one of these damn kids jumped in front of my car.
Oh, that line is
I
so
love that
great.
line.
I love that. It's amazing.
It turns out we meet Lorraine now, Marty's mother. It turns out she's just as thirsty as Marty is in 1985.
Very thirsty.
Oh, my goodness. Just
Dude,
coping out his underwear, calling in Calvin Klein.
She took his pants off, man. She wanted him to
Yeah.
spend the night.
It's crazy.
Oh, God.
But then we meet the
family.
Baines family.
Yes.
Lorraine Baines. We meet, we meet the family. We see little baby Joey in his playpen.
Yes.
I love that. So you're my Uncle Jailbird Joey. Gotta get used to these bars, kid. I love that line. That's probably my favorite line in the movie.
There's so many good lines. I love how everyone thinks Marty's in the Coast Guard because of his jacket. And then they ask him, what do you do for a profession? And then he just starts saying, oh, Coast Guard. Like this brilliant.
What's up with his life preserver? Dork thinks he's going to drown. So this scene is actually where we get our first entry in toxic fandom.
Yes.
Which, if you're listening to the show for the first time, we try to find these little moments of toxic fandom that are maybe related to the movie or may not be related to the movie. And in this scene, Mr. Baines rolls in the family's first television, and out of the 3 channels they have at the time in 1955, and in the Honeymooners was probably on 2 of those. Mm-hmm. And so they put on the Honeymooners. And the courtesy of IMDb, in reality, the episode of the Honeymooners Marty watches at the Baines house did not air the night of his unexpected visit on November 5th, 1955. The proper episode should have been The Sleepwalker, but instead it was The Man from Space, which originally aired later on New Year's Eve, 1955. So that means somebody knows
literally
the airing schedule of the Honeymooners backwards and forwards enough that it was a problem to protest it on the internet.
How? Why? Why do you have that much time on your hands?
Well, why do you have that much time, and why do you watch the Honeymooners that much to where it's now become a problem and you need to let the internet know that Back to the Future is now ruined for you because the wrong Honeymooners episode is playing.
Forever.
I can no longer watch Back to the Future because they've ruined Jackie Gleason's legacy.
They've soiled it. It's forever lost.
Soiled it. And while Jackie Gleason is making metaphors about beating his wife, yes, that is your problem is the wrong episode is showing in Back to the Future.
God.
Yeah, that show is problematic nowadays.
I love the internet.
But I mean, Marty is creeped out by his mom hitting on him because
yes.
I mean, why would any person not be creeped out by that? And he goes and runs to Doc Brown's house.
Yes, he meets Doc Brown, who is a very eccentric man. He has a device on his head where he's trying to read the thoughts of Marty. And so Doc Brown just opens the door. He grabs him. He says, "Don't say anything. Nothing at all." He puts a plunger on his head and says, and he just starts guessing.
You want me to make a donation to the Coast Guard Youth Auxiliary?
Yes, I love how they keep referencing the Coast Guard. But then Marty explains everything, what he's there for. He's a time traveler.
He convinces Doc and he
time.
shows him where he hid the DeLorean. And can I just say that Marty didn't exactly do a very good job of hiding the DeLorean.
No, I was thinking that when I saw it. I'm like, really? Like 5 branches?
I mean,
That's
you hit
it?
5 branches. I mean, assuming that nobody else drives on the road that he hit it on, you'd think somebody would notice, hey, that's a boxy-looking car that's hiding behind a billboard and crudely covered with branches.
Yeah, what is this?
We talked last time about how Leonardo DiCaprio wasn't quite as good at his job, so I think that might be a recurring theme with this show is examining people who aren't doing their job up to par.
No,
and Marty is the newest example of guys messing it up. It's like
terrible.
You are from a car, you are driving around in a car that's not even been made yet, and your idea is to hide it with 5 or 6 bushes.
That's it.
Behind a billboard.
behind a billboard.
You have to hope to God that nobody else drives down the road and sees that thing, because they're going to say, hey, what's that in 1955?
It's 1955. They don't have cell phones. People are like observant as ever.
No, I mean, I'm assuming they might still be using a town crier or something. Hear ye, there is a strange car out on Route 1.
Right? What is this box from Satan?
And then Marty has to explain to Doc how it works. He shows him the video. I mean, and I have to ask this too. Do you think it's gigawatts or gigawatts?
I think it's gigawatts.
Well,
But
apparently both are correct pronunciations.
they are apparently both correct. I do like how he says gigawatt. 1.21 gigawatts. I did also like how when he was playing the camera, which somehow connected to a TV from 55.
Yeah. That's weird that he's able to kind of Frankenstein that together and make it work.
One of the cords just like comes unplugged when he like lifts up the camera. So that's one of the goofs, man.
Oh, boy.
they just left it in there, man. God.
But now Marty has to get his parents to like each other, to fall in love with each other.
Yep.
Now this is where the tension kind of builds in the movie. It does a great job of doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a very, I mean, he has to get to know his parents in a very short time period and make them fall in love with each other.
Couple days.
And it's a great scene, and I love this scene so much. It's when Marty is talking with George, and he realizes that he has the same insecurities as his father does.
Mm-hmm.
George is trying to become a successful science fiction writer, and Marty is trying to make it as a successful musician, and George just has that throwaway line of like, I can't imagine you would know what that's all about. And he's like, yeah, I think I do. It's just great that they're able to connect that quick.
Mm-hmm.
Marty at this point doesn't really know his parents.
No, he doesn't know anything about him.
Yeah,
It's-
I mean,
it's very
he does
exciting.
make the effort, I would say, to get to know his father more than he does to get to know Lorraine.
Well, yeah.
But I think that's more of an effort to like, hey, I don't want my mom, who has the hots for me, to kind of get any ideas.
Well, yeah. Trying to jump his ship, man.
Yeah,
Oh
like
my
I don't want to make it
God.
seem like I'm getting to know my mom while she has the hots for me, because if she has the hots for me, well, then I disappear and I don't exist.
Exactly.
That's
like, for those, the cost to the film is because he messed up the timeline, his brother, he has a picture, and then slowly they're disintegrating. They're
Yes.
disappearing off the
you
picture.
see actually his brother start disappearing when he shows the picture to Doc, when he meets the younger Doc in 1955.
Yeah. His head's gone, and then it just keeps going less and less and less. So that's why he has to go and make sure they fall in love.
And then George is convinced by Marty as Darth Vader from
Yes!
the planet Vulcan.
He has to convince him.
And the soundtrack of Eddie Van Halen.
Oh my God. Because Marty tries to like hook up his parents. He's like, hey, meet George. This is my great buddy George. And Lorraine's just like awestruck by Marty. Whenever she sees him, she's like, oh my God.
She sees the purple underwear.
Calvin Klein.
Oh my God.
So
Oh, by the way, you would think that George would remember the alien who ordered him to pursue Lorraine and win her affection.
Right. Yeah, I was thinking about that. I'm like, that's kind of a traumatic event.
I mean, you were if an alien shows up in your bedroom and tells you to pursue this girl you have the hots for, you remember the name of that alien for the rest of your life.
Totally, but he never did.
And then in 1985, he will. I mean, if he's a big a sci-fi nerd as we think he is, he'll have watched Star Trek and he'll have watched Star Wars in the future.
Mm-hmm.
You would think he'd be like, Vulcan? Darth Vader? You'd think, like, what happened? Like, what's going on? I mean, George Lucas is, I mean, unless this is a universe where Star Wars doesn't exist.
I guess maybe.
No, probably not.
They have references. They reference Ronald Reagan as president.
Yeah.
So yeah, they have to. It's
crazy. I mean, that is like the plot hole of the movie, though. And now we get to
That's the plot hole of the film.
That's the plot hole of the film.
He didn't realize it's all a fake.
It is all a fake.
Michael J. Fox is a hack.
Like I said, if some alien visited you and threatened to melt your brain if you didn't pursue a girl,
Yeah.
you remember the name of that alien.
Maybe that same alien visited George Lucas and told him about Star Wars, Darth Vader, and then that same guy visited the other, told him about Vulcan, and then he helped jumpstart.
I think we're getting too far down that rabbit hole, so I'm going to pump the brakes there on that. But then, so in Marty's quest to get his parents together, we wind up back in the diner, and this is a scene where we actually see get Eric Stoltz in the movie.
Okay, really?
If you watch closely, it's actually Eric Stoltz that's throwing that punch at Biff and knocking him down.
No way.
Yeah, way. Eric's that's like the one usable frame of Eric Stoltz in Back to the Future is him punching Biff and knocking down his goons.
Wow.
The look on your face is just like pure amazement.
I can't believe it.
Yeah.
How did I miss that? Wow.
Well, because, I mean,
That's
you
brilliant.
can't ask Michael J. Fox, who's a shrimp, to punch out Thomas Wilson.
No, you can't.
I mean,
Well, he's probably too short. So
I don't
I'm
know
sure
if he
they
can reach.
did.
I'm sure Michael J. Fox needs help reaching the top shelf at the grocery store or something.
Especially now.
Oh, God.
That's
I
terrible.
was waiting for one of us to make a Parkinson's joke. We're sorry, Michael J. Fox.
No.
You're a tremendous talent, and we hope that you that your ailments heal soon.
You're a good guy, man.
You're a good guy. We appreciate everything you've done, and the world of entertainment needs you.
But I see why they couldn't use it because he's too short.
He's too short. It would have been realistic for Michael J. to have a scene of Michael J. Fox trying to punch out Thomas Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, even a movie, even a classic movie like Back to the Future, can't resist an old-fashioned poop joke.
And
At the chase scene, where you're like, oh my God, there's poop, and then the car runs into the poop truck, and poop is just everywhere, all over them.
So that becomes a running gag throughout the series. Like Biff always hits a truckload of crap.
Either Biff or his relatives.
They just always get covered in crap.
You would think like he would just have like the family would have such a genetic aversion to poop at this point,
right?
It's like, no, I can't use the toilet. Like, why not? There's poop. Like, so what? Like, no, you don't understand. There's poop.
We're always covered in poop. And why is the poop so perfectly placed? That's my thing. Have you ever it's always in that spot. It's amazing. And why do they have that much poop? Where does all that poop come from?
The farms.
From 1955.
In 1955, yeah, and America was still very much farmland. I mean, there were farms
That
and
is
cows and
true.
pigs and poop. I mean, poop was everywhere.
That was like a fertilizer. They're on their way to fertilize.
I don't even. Yeah, that was a very cheap way of fertilizing everything. Was just, hey, let's get the yesterday's cow crop in here, and just poop, fling the poop everywhere.
So we have that great chase scene with the skateboard. He runs into the poop car. How many more times are we going to say poop?
Probably a lot.
All right.
Especially when we get to part 2 and 3.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, we are not doing part 2 and 3 today. This will be a 4-hour long show.
Yeah, no.
But the movie progresses. Marty does his bit to help George build his confidence, and Marty does have to take Lorraine to the dance.
Mm-hmm.
But they formulated a plan to kind of, make George out to be the hero. I mean, the movie resolves the Oedipal relationship by having Lorraine being so uncomfortable kissing Marty.
Yeah. Where that was a perfect line. It's just like kissing my brother.
It's like, no, I think I get your point. And then Biff kind of walks in, messing up the plan, and Biff's friends make no effort to stop him from trying to rape Lorraine.
None at all.
Those are some terrible people.
Seriously.
I mean, it's one thing to be a henchman of the bully, but you are literally walking away from someone who's perfectly willing to rape a young girl.
And he was. He grabs her in the car, and he's just like, this ain't no peep show.
And then she's perfectly cool hanging out with her attempted rapist 30 years later.
I know.
That is so weird.
Yeah.
No.
Maybe
no.
Well, maybe he said, I'm sorry. And maybe,
yeah, because that makes it all better.
Well, I don't know. We don't know what their relationship was because it seemed like George was the boss of Biff later on, 30 years later.
But thankfully George intervenes, the music builds, and the audience gets its shot in Fuda when, George knocks out Biff in one punch. I mean, that's a great scene when the music's building. It's that horror movie psycho score provided by Alan Silvestri, and he just knocks him clean with one punch. Love it.
I love the scene where they lock Marty in the car.
The keys are in here.
The keys are in here. All the dudes get out and they just start slapping the guys. Go home to your mama.
Go home to your mama, Peckerwood. Who you calling spook, Peckerwood?
Gosh. So because the guy he has to use what does he use?
It looks like a screwdriver. Cuts his hand.
Cuts his hand so he can't play guitar because they're at the dance now and they have this band playing, Earth Angel. So they have Marty play the guitar in place of the lead singer.
Mm-hmm.
And so while he's playing, Marty starts to disappear because his father and Lorraine are dancing. Some ginger guy steps in.
Yeah, some drunk teenager, which there are quite an odd number of drunk teenagers at this 1950s dance.
Tons of them. Well, I mean...
That's poor adult supervision right there. They're not watching that punch bowl pretty clearly.
No.
So many drunkards. But again, George realizes his self-confidence, steps in, kisses Lorraine, and the future is secure. Marty is good. He's not going to disappear.
Mm-hmm.
And in kind of like this last, goodbye to 1955, we get the now famous Johnny B. Good scene.
Which was my least favorite part of the film.
Yeah, I mean, for you, you said that's your lens flare of the movie.
That's my lens flare of the film. It didn't advance the plot. I didn't like how there were so many dudes like looking under the chicks' dresses. The chicks were being flipped over in front of the camera, spreading their legs.
Well, this is the 1950s. Everybody knows how to swing dance.
I guess. Apparently, everyone took that swing dance class.
Personally, I mean, to me, I enjoy the scene a lot. It's you got the evolution of rock and roll.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, imagine if Zemeckis cut it out. I don't think the movie would have been as memorable. It probably still would have been a classic, but it's that last little touch in there. Marty plays his Johnny B. Good. He does his Angus Young impression, his Eddie Valen impression, his Jimi Hendrix impression, and then everybody's just looking at him like, dude, chill. It's like, I guess you guys aren't ready for that.
But your kids are gonna love it.
Yeah, and then he leaves. He gets one last goodbye with teenage George and Lorraine, and he walks away. And now we get the climax of the movie where there is an expected lightning strike is going to hit the clock tower, and that's going to generate enough energy to get Marty power the DeLorean and get him back to 1985.
Yeah, because he knew the strike was coming. That would be the 1.21 gigawatts. They rigged a cable, makeshift hanger attached to the flux capacitor.
Really long, copper wire hanger or something.
And just a bunch of wires, and Doc can do it because everyone knows him as Doc Brown in the city. So
he's just known as the town crazy scientist.
Yeah, I love how they're the policeman walks up to him and he's like, "So, do you got any permits?" And then he's like, "Of course I have permits." Reaches for his wallet.
Do you think he actually had a permit, or he was just bribing him?
No, he's bribing him. Absolutely.
Yeah, he's pulling out a 20 and just be like, "Hey, why don't you say you didn't see anything, huh?" Wink,
That's
wink.
right. Because he was apparently he had fortune. I believe there was
his
a throwaway
line. His
line.
dad was a very rich man.
Mm-hmm. So they have it. They set up the clock tower, but then some drama happens. Everything, the cables come unattached. So then Doc has to climb up on the clock and race time connecting the cables before the lightning strikes or before Marty gets there.
The music swells once again, and then
boom!
In a flash, the DeLorean's gone, and then dun, 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 and we see. The trip is successful. Marty's gone back to 1985, but Marty has given himself or tried to give himself enough time to help
Doc
save Doc and prevent his death.
Because the whole time he wrote a letter for Doc Brown telling him, "Hey, you're going to get shot on the night that I come back," and he wanted to warn him to wear a bulletproof vest, whatever. And Doc tore it up and said, "No, I don't want to know anything about my future because that'll disrupt space-time continuum, disrupt my present, whatever is going to happen." So whatever happens is just going to happen.
Well, as a scientist, that is something that you have to adhere to. Is your experiments and the ideas you have do have real-world consequences.
They do.
Especially when you're doing something like time travel, you have to understand that even the smallest thing has the biggest ripple effect.
I really admired that about Doc's character throughout this film. He was just so grounded.
He was so grounded, and
so
he was
grounded.
a scientist to the bone, pretty much.
He was. But, so when Marty comes back, he sets it 10 minutes, but then the car dies, so he jogs.
Because it's not exciting if the car doesn't die.
Exactly. You got to have that tension. So he jogs over to the parking lot, Doc gets shot, and then, surprise, surprise, Doc actually pulled the letter out of the trash, taped it.
Yeah, just got all the remnants together from that windy night and was able to make something coherent out of it.
And he was like, "You know what? I thought about it, but then I said, what the hell?" So then he wore a bulletproof vest.
Mm-hmm. And
it stopped that AK-47.
Yeah, that is a big old round coming from an AK-47, and he got shot multiple times.
Multiple times.
And yet you just see well, it kind of worked, but there is no way he would be okay. He would just be like, "Oh, it hurts so much."
We'll just
because keep in mind, it's a bulletproof vest, but
it's not.
It's stopping something that's moving 2,000 feet a second on a dime. It's going to hurt.
And being shot, not at point blank
when
range.
you just open it up, I imagine his chest would look like Grimace.
Oh, gosh.
The McDonald's mascot. It would be the same color as Grimace.
It's amazing. Grimace.
Well, I mean, Doc's okay. Everything's all right. Marty sneaks back into his house, and then he wakes up what is, resuming the previous timeline that we were in.
Yeah.
So supposedly, it's almost like Marty hasn't been gone.
No.
But he wakes up, and things look different around the house. There's nice furniture. His his brother is going off to a decent job.
His sister has a bunch of boys chasing after her.
Yeah.
Which, yeah.
He's like, hey, what is this? It's breakfast. Why don't you sit down? And then his parents walk in.
From
Lorraine
golf.
isn't drinking a bunch. She's
super
thin.
fit.
They just looks like they just got back from like some tennis vacation. So really, all George needed was a bit of self-confidence, and boom, like the future would have been good.
What does he say? If you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything.
Yeah, which Marty tells him that, and then he just stole it.
He did. He's like I always told you. I guess.
In hindsight, the ending has been a bit criticized.
Yes, the ending.
Because it shows the very opulence of the 1980s, of the kind of like this money hungry culture that was permeating throughout the country at the time. And there's the nice furniture, there's the expensive car in the garage, which Biff is now kind of kowtowed to George. And has learned some humility. He actually seems like a decent person, maybe. I don't know, but all we see is like tracksuit Biff.
Tracksuit Biff. That's right.
we get tracksuit Biff now as a car detailing specialist.
Adidas tracksuit Biff.
And then we get the end. We get the now famous ending of Marty, you got to come back with me.
Yeah, where it's like setting up for the next sequel.
I don't think they actually intended to do a sequel because part 2 didn't come out, I think, until like 1989.
Yeah.
So it took them some time to really develop a sequel.
Apparently, this is what they said. It took 2 years to write a script and to build all the structures for the sequel. So that's why it took so long. And they had to figure out it was because
they filmed part 2 and 3 back to back.
They did.
Mm-hmm.
They did. And they did a trailer for 3 while I think it's the only film ever to have a trailer for its sequel in the film.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's just weird.
Yeah, but this episode isn't about those 2 movies.
No, it is not.
All right, so the movie's over. I mean, let's talk about what happened in post-production and the legacy of the movie.
Legacy.
All right, so because of all the delays in casting it and filming it, there was really only 9.5 weeks to do all the post-production work. So that's the score, that's the visual effects, that's the sound, and that's the film editing itself.
They wanted it to come out in May.
Yeah.
Originally, but they didn't wrap up filming, I think, until April.
They wrapped it up in August, and it was set for... They wrapped filming in April, and the film was set for an August release.
But then they pushed it to July, and they had their 2 editors working 24-hour shifts.
Well, you know why they moved it up to July?
What?
It was the strength of that test screening I mentioned earlier. They showed a test audience a rough cut of the film, and people were cheering at the end of it. They loved it. They wanted to get it out quick, and they had a crew working 24/7 to get the visual effects shots done, the sound editing, the mixing, and it all turned out okay, I would say.
Yeah, it did.
I mean, Alan Silvestri's score is timeless. I find myself humming it all the time. The man does fantastic work. There's only 32 visual effects shots in the entire movie.
I know,
and it all works.
It does.
There's some scenes. It does look a bit off, but that's just the limitations of the technology at the time.
Especially in the
And the movie's not about those shots. It's about the story of Marty meeting his parents, and I don't want to say making their lives like correct. It's inadvertently making things better.
Yes.
So the movie came out. You want to know how much it grossed?
It was like $389 million.
It was the highest grossing film in 1985.
It was.
It was number 1 at the box office, get this, for 11 weeks. You know what knocked it off?
What?
National Lampoon's European Vacation. Which, 11 weeks is insane enough to think about.
That's it was 3 months, man.
Yeah, that's the most recent stretch I can think of where that happened was Black Panther last year.
Yeah.
Because that was number 1 for something like 6 or 7 straight weeks. It was insane.
And that grossed like almost over $1 billion.
I think domestic it grossed something like 800 or 900 million.
That's insane.
That's insane to think about. And then the Oscar season came around. It was nominated for
4 of them.
4. One for Best Sound Editing.
Mm-hmm.
It was nominated for Best Sound Mixing, Best Original Screenplay, and Best Original Song, which was the Huey Lewis song, Power of Love, that plays a couple of times in the movie.
Yes. Famous.
Ronald Reagan not surprisingly, was a big fan of the film. He gets a tiny little throwaway joke when Marty is meeting Doc. He's like, "What? Ronald Reagan, the actor, is your president?
Yeah.
What?"
And then later on, he's like, it makes sense why you need an actor as your president.
I guess when they were screening the film at the White House for him, when they said that line, he actually requested the projectionist to play that scene back.
Yeah.
It's like, wait, they said my name in the movie?
Yeah, he couldn't believe it. And he uses a reference from the film in his State of the Union address in 86.
Yeah.
God, he loved that film.
Oh, yeah. He was a big-time jokester. He loved Hollywood. He loved movies. So, yeah, it's not surprising that he was a big fan of it.
Right on, man.
I mean, the movie has gone on to be on numerous best film of all times lists. I mean, we could be here for an hour just listing off all the lists that's on.
Oh, yeah. AFI, all of them, man.
My favorite thing about it, like post-legacy, was this was actually selected for preservation by the Library of Congress in 2007.
Holy cow.
So if you're unfamiliar of what that means, is they take a copy of the film, either like it's on a reel or some type of format, and they store it for preservation in the Library of Congress in case there's something tragic that happens and people, like the original cut is lost or something. So in the event that does happen, the Library of Congress has it for preservation. So to me, that is the highest compliment you could give a movie, where it is selected no matter what happens. This is always going to be available for viewing.
That's so cool.
And I think we have to talk about this too. I mean, we're seeing a lot of reboots of older movies. We're seeing them either in movies or we're seeing them in television shows. Personally, this movie should not be touched.
I don't think so.
For all intents and purposes. And thankfully, Robert Zemeckis and Bob Gale have made assurances that will not happen. They own the rights to this movie for now until the end of time.
Really? So they're making
So
sure.
pretty much the only way that a potential reboot could happen is if they die.
Oh, okay.
So I mean, they both own the rights to it. They both have to die for anybody to even consider doing it. But I mean, it's one of those. This is one of those movies you cannot touch.
It's timeless. You can enjoy it at any age, any time of your life. And anyone.
Yeah.
Like, it's still, the concepts they talk about is still relevant to today. It's so much fun.
It's so much fun to watch.
Like,
although it wasn't that much fun in China to watch because the notion of time travel disrespects history to them, so they banned the movie.
They banned the movie.
China bans the weirdest movies.
That's
they are
crazy.
now just allowing Bohemian Rhapsody to be viewed in China.
Just now?
Although they're editing out all the gay scenes in Bohemian Rhapsody. So you're only getting like half the movie, folks. But of course, if you didn't know that Freddie Mercury was gay, I mean again, where you been?
Come on.
Actually, the film school at USC actually uses this screenplay as a model for, quote, the perfect screenplay.
Oh, it's great. This film it's all story.
Yeah, it's all story. I mean, one thing happens.
Yeah.
And again, when you're using time travel as a plot device, you have to be really careful with how you structure your characters and your plot points. You really do have to be. So Bob Gale and Zemeckis get a ton of credit for making this screenplay because it's so hard to do a time travel screenplay that is coherent and entertaining.
It is.
I mean, it's gone on to 2 sequels, which we mentioned, a television cartoon which did not last that long.
No, it did not.
Because those cartoons never do last. I mean, the real Ghostbusters, Beetlejuice.
Yeah,
I mean, a ton of 80s movies got cartoons that just never panned out.
Died in the 90s.
Should not have been made into cartoons. And it spawned several video games.
It is. Telltale's. Oh, yeah.
Telltale's game is actually really good.
It is.
Yes.
Very exciting.
I had the chance to play that, and I enjoyed it.
Oh, and they used the real actors, too.
Yeah.
To voice the dialogue, which is pretty cool.
I mean, what do you say now that we've kind of talked about the movie? Why don't we rate it now?
Let's rate it.
All right. So for those unfamiliar with the show, we have kind of a 4-tiered rating system. We have would not watch, would watch, would own, and would host viewing parties.
For this, I actually would host a viewing party.
That is my verdict as well.
If someone like I knew that never saw it, I'd be like, you have to come over and watch this.
Yeah, this is something
incredible.
this is an essential movie. Forget the fact that it is a science fiction film. This is an essential movie, period, to see.
It's really tough to hate the film. There's so many elements it covers, and I think it just touches everyone in any way. You can relate to it from any essence. So
the comedy, the pacing, the score, the tense drama.
Yeah.
I would host a viewing party all the time for this.
All the time.
Maybe not for the 2 sequels, but I mean
No.
I mean, I'd probably have 60 people dress up as Marty McFly for a viewing party.
All right, I wouldn't go.
I would host a big old party. I mean, but it would
What?
have. I would. I mean, this movie has like people have to see this movie.
You have to dress up like Marty McFly to get in.
Oh, I mean,
No.
costumes optional.
Cops. All right, fair enough.
I mean, but I personally would dress up as Doc Brown, get the big old hair going, and just the manic look.
Always. What? Great Scott!
Great Scott, Marty, get over here, Marty. We're doing a little Sub-Zero in there.
So we talked about toxic fandom. What was your lens flare?
Lens flare. You know, I think it would be the I am Darth Vader from Planet Vulcan.
That was your lens. Okay.
That's the lens flare because it just creates a big old plot hole in the movie. It's like, come on. I mean, in 1985, this is 1985. Everybody saw Star Wars at least like 6 times by this point. I mean, my dad saw it in theaters 8 times when the original one came out. Everybody has seen Star Wars to this point.
I know they never talk about that mysterious alien.
Yeah,
or
never
this
brought
guy
up again.
Marty McFly that changed their lives.
Mm-hmm.
So that's fair. Mine's still Johnny Be Good. What about your? All right, for the red shirt, mine was the Pines.
Yeah, it has to be the lone pine that is murdered as Marty is screaming out of Old Man Peabody's driveway. That it has to be that.
He runs over
because in the beginning of the film it's the Twin Pine Mall.
Yep.
And at the end of the movie it's the Lone Pine Mall. So Marty,
wait, really? It's the Lone Pine. I didn't catch that.
You didn't catch that? Oh, that's a great little touch that the writers put in there.
Amazing. It's the Lone Pine Mall.
Lone Pine Mall and Old Man Peabody. I mean, you murdered my pine.
That continuity, man. That is awesome writing.
Again, it's the perfect screenplay.
Gosh, I love this film.
All right. So I think we've discussed enough about our love of Back to the Future.
We have.
So what do you say we pick our next movie?
Let's do it. Let's
consult
the
We're going to enlist the help of our very helpful random number generator AI, Major Samantha. And we pick from our list of 118 movies. And let's see. She has selected number 44, which is the 1995 Terry Gilliam directed 12 Monkeys.
Ooh.
So lots going on there. We have a cataclysmic world-ending virus. We have spotty time travel. We got a lot of Bruce Willis butt in that movie.
Endless butt. Time travel. That's so dope.
So we're going to be doing back-to-back episodes of time travel. So be on the lookout for that. So I think that wraps it up for this week.
I'm down.
So if you enjoyed the show, please go to iTunes and leave us a 5-star review. It really helps drive us up the charts as well as help people like you find the show. We are across the spectrum of social media with Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, all at ForceFed Sci-Fi. You can check out and download episodes at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, or wherever you find podcasts. And please subscribe so you never miss an episode. Finally, you can check out our website, forcefedsci-fi.com, that's all one word, for show notes and links to all of our social media. So for myself and Sean Culp, we'll see you next time. ForceFed Sci-Fi is written and hosted by Sean Culp and Chris Rupp. Website design and associate producer is Jeremy Keski. Artwork designed by Mike Berger. Theme music composed and performed by Custom Anthem.